Imagine this. An elderly man enters a bustling restaurant on his birthday, expecting a warm welcome, only to be turned away by a young waiter who has no idea he's just refused service to the owner's father. This isn't just a story about one man's stand. It's a journey that questions loyalty, forgiveness, and the courage to stand against prejudice. Ready to find out what happens next? Hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned as we dive into the heart of Lifestory Chronicles. Mr. Jamal stepped into the warm glow of Jamal's Haven, his heart swelling with joy. It was his birthday, and the restaurant buzzed with laughter and the rich aroma of soul food. As he walked past the familiar faces of friends and family, he felt the weight of years lift from his shoulders. Today was a day for celebration, a day to feel special. "Happy birthday, Mr. Jamal," a voice called out from the kitchen. It was Sarah, the chef, her hands dusted with flour as she waved a rolling pin in the air. He smiled, waving back, the wrinkles on his face deepening with delight. Drake, his son, and the restaurant's owner rushed over, beaming with pride. "Dad, I can't wait for you to see the surprise we have planned." But as the evening wore on, Mr. Jamal noticed a change in the atmosphere. The young waiter, Tyler, seemed distracted, barely making eye contact as he took their orders. When Mr. Jamal asked for his favorite dish, Tyler frowned. "Sorry, we're out of that," he said dismissively. Confusion turned to discomfort. "What do you mean? It's my birthday." Mr. Jamal's voice trembled, but he kept his composure. Tyler shrugged, a hint of arrogance in his tone. "That's just how it is." The laughter around them faded. Mr. Jamal's heart raced as he felt the eyes of the restaurant turn toward him. He stood, suddenly aware of the room's tension. "Excuse me?" The clatter of dishes echoed as silence blanketed the restaurant. Drake looked on, his smile fading, realizing something was wrong. And just like that, the celebration began to crumble, leaving an unsettling question hanging in the air. Would this birthday be remembered for joy or for pain? "Dad, what's going on?" Drake asked, rushing to his father's side. The warmth of the celebration evaporated, replaced by an icy silence that seemed to stretch endlessly. Mr. Jamal faced Tyler, his heart pounding in his chest. "I asked for my favorite dish, son. Why would you deny me that on my birthday?" His voice was steady, but the hurt was palpable. Tyler crossed his arms, defensive. "It's not personal, old man. We just don't have it." He turned away, dismissing Jamal as if he were just another customer. Drake felt a surge of anger rises within him. "Tyler, that's not how we treat our guests, especially not family." He stepped between them, but Tyler scoffed, refusing to acknowledge the tension. "Family? This is just another day for me," Tyler snapped, his tone dripping with contempt. The restaurant buzzed with whispers as patrons turned their attention to the unfolding drama, smartphones emerging to capture the scene. Mr. Jamal felt the heat rise in his chest. "You may see me as just another customer, but I'm more than that. I'm the owner's father." His words sliced through the air like a knife, but the waiter's expression remained unchanged. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on Mr. Jamal's shoulders. Drake felt a chill run down his spine, unsure how to proceed. "Tyler, please." But it was too late. Mr. Jamal clenched his fists, his voice rising above the murmur of the crowd. "This isn't just about a meal. It's about respect." The diners watched, captivated and uncomfortable, as the confrontation escalated. Drake felt torn between loyalty to his father and the reality of running a restaurant. As the tension mounted, he realized he had to act. The moment hung in the air, thick with anticipation. Would he defend his father or shield the waiter? And as the restaurant held its breath, Mr. Jamal knew this moment would change everything. Drake's heart raced as he looked between his father and Tyler. The tension in the room was electric, crackling like a summer storm about to break. "Tyler, step aside," Drake finally said, his voice firm but shaking. "You need to apologize." "Apologize? For what?" Tyler retorted, crossing his arms defiantly. "I didn't do anything wrong." Mr. Jamal felt the sting of the young man's words like a slap. "You disrespected me in my own son's restaurant," he replied, each word heavy with emotion. "You don't know who I am or what I've been through." Drake stepped forward, desperation etched on his face. "Tyler, my dad deserves respect. He has built a life fighting against prejudice. You can't just treat him like this." Around them, the restaurant patrons whispered, the air thick with curiosity and discomfort. Some took out their phones, recording the confrontation, their eyes wide with anticipation. Tyler scoffed, looking at Drake. "You're taking his side? He's just an old man, clinging to outdated ideas about respect." This is the real world. Mr. Jamal's fists clenched at his sides, the weight of years of fighting against discrimination crashing down on him. I've spent my life teaching my children what respect means. It's not outdated, it's essential. With every word, he felt the crowd leaning closer, the atmosphere shifting. Drake's face flushed with anger as he glanced at the watching diners. This isn't how we treat people. You're fired, Tyler. Gasps erupted in the crowd as silence fell again, but Tyler's face hardened. You can't be serious. I'm just trying to do my job. You're trying to undermine my family, Drake shot back, the emotional stakes rising. Mr. Jamal felt a mix of pride and sorrow for his son. The hurt of Tyler's words lingered in the air like a bitter aftertaste. Drake, let's just talk. No, Dad, this is wrong. Drake's voice was strained, caught between defending his father and confronting his employee. With one swift motion, Tyler stormed out, slamming the kitchen door behind him. The echo reverberated through the restaurant, leaving an uncomfortable stillness in its wake. The murmurs grew louder, fueled by the shock of what they had witnessed. Drake turned to his father, frustration etched in his features. I didn't want it to end this way. I never wanted you to be embarrassed on your birthday. I wasn't embarrassed, Mr. Jamal replied, sadness creeping into his voice. I'm tired of being disrespected because of my age and race. This isn't just about tonight. It's about standing up for what's right. Drake looked around, realizing the magnitude of what had just happened. The viral potential of the confrontation buzzed in the air, heavy with implications. As Mr. Jamal's words sank in, he knew this moment would be remembered. Not just as a birthday celebration, but as a turning point. Dad, Drake began, uncertainty swirling in his mind. I think we need to address this. Mr. Jamal nodded, his resolve strengthening. Yes, we do. And we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. As they faced the silent crowd, the weight of the moment pressed heavily on them. Little did they know, the consequences of this night would ripple far beyond the walls of the restaurant, igniting a conversation about respect, discrimination, and the bonds of family that would change everything. The next day, the sun rose with a glaring brightness that seemed almost mocking to Mr. Jamal. He sat on his porch, sipping coffee as he scrolled through his phone. The viral video of his confrontation at the restaurant had exploded overnight, racking up thousands of views and comments. Some were supportive, applauding him for standing up to discrimination, while others were harsh, questioning his dignity and the choice to confront a young waiter. Look at this mess, he muttered, shaking his head as he read a particularly hurtful comment. What have they done to my family's name? Drake stepped out, a heavy expression on his face. Dad, we need to talk about this, he said, sitting down beside him. The restaurant is getting flooded with calls and messages. People want to know what we're going to do about Tyler. Let them talk, Mr. Jamal replied, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. This isn't just about one waiter. It's about respect for everyone who looks like me. We can't let this slide. Drake sighed, running a hand through his hair. I understand that, but I'm worried about the restaurant's reputation. People are outraged, and some are calling for a boycott. Let them boycott, Mr. Jamal said fiercely. If we can't stand for what's right, then we're no better than those who disrespect us. This is an opportunity to open a conversation about discrimination, not just in our restaurant, but in our community. As they spoke, a group of local activists gathered on the street, their signs raised high with messages of support. We stand with Mr. Jamal, one sign read. Respect all people, shouted another. Drake's eyes widened. Look at them, Dad. They're rallying behind you. This could be big. Mr. Jamal stood, heart swelling with pride. See, the community is ready to fight for what's right. He joined the activists, raising his own sign that read, We deserve respect. Cheers erupted around him, energizing him further. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, Tyler was watching the news at a coffee shop. Realizing the consequences of his actions, the clips of the confrontation were playing repeatedly, each view sending waves of humiliation through him. I didn't think it would blow up like this, he said to himself, a mix of regret and anger boiling inside. As the day wore on, the community buzzed with discussions about respect, discrimination, and the implications of the incident at Jamal's Haven. Mr. Jamal's face became a symbol of resistance, while the restaurant itself stood at the center of a growing movement. The next evening, as the restaurant prepared to close, Drake announced a community meeting to discuss the incident and how to promote inclusivity. We need to turn this into something positive, he told his staff, determination in his voice. It's time to make real changes. With the meeting scheduled, Mr. Jamal felt a spark of hope. They would not just react, they would take a stand together. But in the shadows, Tyler mulled over his next move. What would he do next? Would he confront Mr. Jamal? Or could he find a way to shift the narrative back in his favor? As the sun set on Jamal's haven, the stage was set for a showdown that would test not just their resolve, but their understanding of family, respect, and community. The weight of the night loomed, promising change but also uncertainty. That evening, the restaurant was filled with the buzz of conversation as locals packed into Jamal's haven. Drake stood at the front, nerves tingling as he looked over the crowd. Mr. Jamal sat beside him, a steadying presence despite his own conflicted feelings. Friends, family, activists, and curious strangers had gathered, all drawn by the publicized incident and the promise of change. Drake cleared his throat, his voice slightly shaky as he began. "Thank you all for being here tonight. We didn't expect this, but it's clear that what happened was more than just an argument. It was a wake-up call. It's time we address the issues that brought us here." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. One by one, community members spoke up, sharing stories of times they'd felt disrespected or unseen in places meant to serve everyone. The accounts were painful yet powerful, highlighting just how deep the issue of discrimination ran. Mr. Jamal took a deep breath and stood to address the room. "I've lived my life trying to be the best man I could be, but still, I walked into my son's restaurant and felt small. This isn't just my story, it's all of ours. Respect and dignity are rights, not privileges reserved for a few." His words hung heavy in the air, and many nodded, some wiping away tears. Drake watched his father, feeling a new respect and admiration. His father was not just speaking for himself, he was voicing the pain of many in the room. Just as Mr. Jamal was about to sit down, the door creaked open. Heads turned, and there stood Tyler, shifting uncomfortably. The tension in the room thickened. Some guests muttered under their breath while others stiffened at his appearance. Tyler hesitated, but he finally met Mr. Jamal's gaze, guilt evident on his face. "Mr. Jamal, I came to apologize," Tyler said, his voice barely audible over the whispers. "I didn't realize the harm I caused until I saw the way people reacted. I understand if you don't forgive me, but I want to try to make things right." The crowd was silent, eyes darting between Mr. Jamal and Tyler. Mr. Jamal's heart pounded, wrestling with his own anger and his deep desire for real change. Could he trust Tyler's apology, or was it just another act? "An apology is only the beginning, Tyler," Mr. Jamal replied carefully, his voice steady. "What we need is for people to understand and respect each other. Words are one thing, but actions are what matter." Tyler nodded slowly, absorbing Mr. Jamal's words. "I'll work to prove that I can change, sir," he replied, his tone sincere. "I know it'll take time, but I'm willing to try." As the night wore on, the conversation shifted toward solutions, with Tyler's unexpected appearance stirring fresh ideas. Drake promised that Jamal's haven would lead by example, creating a space where every person felt valued. The community members offered ideas, from cultural training sessions to partnerships with local advocacy groups. By the end of the night, the mood had shifted from tension to unity. Mr. Jamal looked around, moved by the support, the voices, and even Tyler's willingness to change. This wasn't just his fight anymore. It was a community movement. But as everyone dispersed, Mr. Jamal couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. What other challenges lay ahead, and how would their resolve stand the test of time? As he closed the restaurant's doors, Jamal felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey toward respect and understanding would be long and fraught with setbacks, but he was ready to take each step, no matter the cost. In the days following the community meeting, the atmosphere in Jamal's haven was charged with hope and anticipation. The restaurant staff buzzed with conversations about change, and Drake could feel the energy shift in the air. Determined to take the lead, he announced a new initiative that aimed to establish Jamal's haven as a model for inclusivity and respect. On Monday morning, Drake gathered his team around the main dining area, their faces a mix of curiosity and excitement. Mr. Jamal joined them, standing beside his son, his calm presence lending weight to Drake's words. "From today, we're starting an inclusivity training program," Drake began, his voice filled with purpose. "This isn't just a one-time thing. It's a commitment we're making to each other and our community." He glanced at Tyler, who had been allowed to return to work on probation, a silent promise of redemption and growth. Tyler lowered his gaze, his face flushed, but he nodded, ready to rebuild trust. Mr. Jamal gave him a small nod, acknowledging the young man's efforts. "We're bringing in a community advocate each week to lead discussions," Drake continued, "so we can understand the experiences of everyone who walks through these doors. Every voice matters, and we want to make sure no one feels the way my father felt that night." Mr. Jamal's heart swelled with pride as he listened to his son. Drake was taking their painful experience and turning it into something powerful. He could see that this wasn't just a gesture. It was a promise for real change. As the first training session began later that day, Mr. Jamal watched as the advocate, Miss Rosa, led them through stories of individuals who had faced prejudice in their everyday lives. Her voice was steady, recounting tales of resilience and respect won through struggle. Tyler listened intently, the weight of his actions pressing on him as Ms. Rosa's words struck a chord. Afterward, Ms. Rosa asked everyone to share their thoughts. Tyler cleared his throat, hesitant but determined. I didn't realize how my actions could impact someone so deeply. It was just another shift to me, but I see now how wrong that was." Mr. Jamal watched Tyler, his expression softening slightly. The young man was beginning to understand the pain his indifference had caused, and though it didn't erase the hurt, it was a step. The staff went around, sharing moments when they'd witnessed or felt disrespected, each story adding a new layer of understanding. Even Drake shared his own struggle, balancing the responsibilities of business with the values he'd been raised to uphold. By the end of the session, the restaurant felt transformed. This was more than just a meeting. It was a chance to rebuild trust, respect, and community. As the team dispersed, Mr. Jamal placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder. "It takes courage to face your mistakes. Just remember, real change happens when we act on what we learn." Tyler nodded, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Jamal. I'll do my best to make this right." Leaving the restaurant that evening, Mr. Jamal felt a strange sense of relief. The path to change was uncertain, but they had taken the first step together. And for the first time in a long time, he felt the restaurant he loved becoming something greater, a place of healing and hope. But he knew that challenges would arise. Would the team's commitment hold strong when things got tough, or would old patterns resurface? Only time would tell. But for now, Mr. Jamal was proud of the legacy they were creating. The journey was just beginning, and he was ready to face whatever came next. As the days passed, word of the initiative spread through the town, bringing new customers eager to support the cause. Jamal's Haven began to thrive, transforming into a community hub for respect and unity. But with the attention came new scrutiny and pressure, especially from local critics who questioned the restaurant's commitment to change. One afternoon, Drake was reviewing inventory when his assistant manager Claire approached him, concern evident on her face. "Drake, we got a message on social media from a local blogger. They're questioning if all of this is just for show." Drake's face tightened as he read the post aloud. Is Jamal's Haven just using a feel-good campaign for publicity, or are they truly committed to inclusivity? He looked at Clara, frustration seeping through. "I don't know what more we can do to prove we're serious." Mr. Jamal, who had been cleaning tables nearby, overheard and came over. "Son, critics will always find something to question. Real change isn't easy, but it's worth the struggle." Drake nodded, absorbing his father's words, but the comment had struck a nerve. "Maybe we need to do more. Show people that this isn't just talk." An idea formed, and he felt a spark of determination. "Dad, what if we host an event here? A night where community members can share their own stories, a way for us to amplify their voices." Mr. Jamal's face lit up. "That's a fine idea, Drake. It'll give people a space to be heard, and show that this place truly stands for unity." They quickly put together a plan, organizing a storytelling night where anyone from the community could step forward and share their experiences. Flyers went up and social media buzzed with anticipation. The night of the event, the restaurant was packed. Families, young activists, older patrons, and even some curious skeptics filled the tables. Tyler worked alongside the other staff. His nervousness was evident, but his actions were more thoughtful than before. As the event began, Drake welcomed everyone. "Tonight, we're here to listen. Each story told here matters, just like each person who walks through these doors." One by one, people took turns sharing their experiences with discrimination, resilience, and moments of kindness that had given them hope. There were stories of everyday struggles, tales of victories big and small, and heartfelt confessions of the pain of feeling unseen. Midway through the event, Tyler stood up, surprising everyone, especially Mr. Jamal. "I know I'm not perfect," Tyler began, his voice shaky, "but working here has taught me a lot. I used to see people as just faces, part of my job. But after what happened, I realized how wrong I was. And I'm sorry, truly. I'm working to be better. A hush fell over the room as Tyler's words hung in the air, genuine and raw. Mr. Jamal felt a strange pride swelling within him. The young man was finally beginning to see. At the end of the night, Mr. Jamal took the stage, looking around the room. "It's not easy to change old ways," he said, voice steady and warm. "But here we are, learning together. This restaurant isn't just a place to eat. It's a place to grow." Applause filled the room, and as Mr. Jamal looked at his son, he could see the pride in Drake's eyes. They were building something bigger than either of them had ever imagined. But as the event came to a close, one guest lingered, a sharp-eyed reporter from the local news, scribbling in a notebook. Her presence left Mr. Jamal with a feeling of unease. Was she here to support them, or did she have a story of her own to tell? The restaurant had achieved a victory tonight, but the journey wasn't over. For every person they reached, there was another waiting to challenge their intentions. And as Mr. Jamal locked the doors, he knew their resolve would be tested again. The morning after the storytelling event, Jamal's Haven woke to a media storm. An article from the local news site circulated online, praising the event but hinting at controversy. The headline read, "Redemption or PR Stunt? Local Restaurants Inclusivity Night Sparks Mixed Reactions." Drake read the article, his stomach twisting. "Dad, they're questioning our motives," he said, frustration clear in his voice. He showed Mr. Jamal the article, which highlighted both supportive comments and skeptical ones, including a quote from a local critic who doubted the sincerity of the initiative. Mr. Jamal read the article with a deep frown. "We knew there'd be doubters, son. Change isn't a clean process. It's messy and uncomfortable. But we're doing this for the right reasons." Drake sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "It's just hard to see everything we're doing twisted around like this." The negative attention brought a backlash, with some people posting negative reviews online and questioning the restaurant's commitment to inclusivity. Drake and Mr. Jamal watched as both supportive and critical comments flooded in, each new notification bringing a fresh wave of stress. Meanwhile, Tyler sat in the corner, reading the article with mixed emotions. He'd worked hard to make amends, and the public scrutiny weighed heavily on him. Just as he was about to speak up, Clara walked over and placed a supportive hand on his shoulder. "Don't let it get to you," she whispered. "People are always quick to judge, but the real change you're making, people will see that in time." Tyler nodded, grateful for her words, but his mind was racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that he needed to do more to prove he'd changed. Determined, he approached Mr. Jamal and Drake with a suggestion. "What if we organize a community outreach program?" he proposed. "Something that goes beyond the restaurant, where we're out there making a difference." Drake's eyes lit up. "That's a brilliant idea, Tyler. We could partner with local schools or maybe do charity events to support underserved communities." Mr. Jamal nodded, a proud smile tugging at his lips. "It's time we show the critics that this isn't about attention. It's about creating a legacy of respect." The trio set to work, and soon, the restaurant was bustling with preparations for a day of service. Flyers advertised free meals for community members in need, as well as workshops on inclusivity hosted by local advocates. Staff members volunteered their time, eager to support the cause, and Tyler threw himself into organizing the event, seeing it as a chance for true redemption. As the day arrived, the restaurant was packed with locals. A diverse crowd of families, students, and community leaders came together, filling Jamal's Haven with laughter and warmth. Local media covered the event, but this time the tone was different. A focus on unity, impact, and the restaurant's efforts to give back. Later that evening, after the last guest had left, Mr. Jamal looked around, pride swelling in his chest. "This is what it's all about," he said, placing a hand on Drake's shoulder. "Building something that lasts beyond us." Drake smiled, exhaustion mingling with satisfaction. "We still have a lot of work to do, but this feels right." Tyler joined them, his face beaming with pride. "Thank you both for giving me a second chance. I won't forget it." As the trio cleaned up, Mr. Sviat, Jamal felt that the restaurant was becoming something more than a place to eat. It was a symbol of resilience, unity, and the ongoing fight for respect. But as he locked up that night, he couldn't help but wonder, would the goodwill they'd built last, or would the challenges continue to test them? The journey toward true inclusivity was far from over, and Mr. Jamal knew the road ahead would be paved with both victories and hardships. But as he looked back at the warm glow of the restaurant, he felt ready for whatever came next. As the final months of the year unfolded, Jamal's Haven emerged not just as a restaurant, but as a symbol of unity, resilience, and community. The continuous efforts to foster inclusivity had weathered challenges and criticism, strengthening the bond among the staff and deepening the trust with their patrons. One evening, Mr. Jamal sat at his usual corner table, watching as the restaurant buzzed with lively conversation. Drake joined him, taking a deep breath and reflecting on the journey they had been through. "I didn't think we'd make it through those tough times," Drake admitted, a note of relief in his voice. "But I finally get it, Dad. This isn't just about business or reputation. It's about respecting each person who comes through that door, just like you always said." Mr. Jamal's face softened, pride evident in his eyes. "That's right, son. We built this place to be more than just a restaurant. It's a place of belonging, for everyone." A few tables over, Tyler was speaking with a group of new hires, sharing his own journey from judgment to understanding. His words echoed Mr. Jamal's, capturing the essence of what the restaurant had become, a place of second chances, learning, and change. In that moment, Drake felt a profound sense of peace. He had started out as a man trying to prove his own worth, but now he saw himself as part of something greater, a legacy his father had built on respect and compassion. As the evening came to a close, Mr. Jamal stood up to make an announcement to the diners. "Thank you all for being part of our journey," he said, his voice warm and steady. "Each of you has helped shape this place into what it is today, a place where everyone is valued. I hope that, in your own lives, you take this message with you. Respect others, listen to their stories, and never underestimate the power of a kind heart." The restaurant erupted into applause, and as Mr. Jamal looked around, he felt his heart swell with gratitude. He knew that he had created something lasting, something his son could carry forward. As the night ended, and the last guests filed out, Drake and Mr. Jamal turned off the lights, leaving Jamal's Haven filled with a warm, lasting glow. Thank you for joining us in this story about resilience and unity. If you enjoyed the journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Lifestory Chronicles for more inspiring tales. Your support helps us bring these stories to life.